Crazy story time. 23 years ago, there was this mother of 2 children who just recently had a 3rd child. Soon after, the newborn baby was sleeping in the nursery while they were throwing a house party, and unfortunately during the party, the house caught on fire. Everyone scrambles out of the house and they couldn't get to the baby, and then the cops concluded that the baby had died in the fire. But her other 2 kids made it out alive. And even though the cops told her that her baby had died, she refused to believe it. Many years later, the mother took her 2 children to a birthday party, and there was this other woman there with her child. And now the mother looks at that child and is in shock because she looks so much like her other 2 kids. She goes up to the little girl and says that she has bubble gum in her hair so that she can steal a few strands of her hair. She took it to a lab and they DNA tested it, and that little girl was her child. So it turns out many years ago during that house party, a woman that the mother knew went upstairs, took the baby, and started the fire so that the baby would be declared as dead and she could easily get away with kidnapping her. And then she ran from the cops and they can't find her.
Okay, so in high school, I used to run track, and one time we were at a really big race. It was nationals, like something like that, and there was a 3-way tie, and so we had to have a tiebreaker, but it had to be out of town. So my coach took me to the tie-breaking race, and we had to stop for a night at a hotel. And the next morning, I woke up, and they were gone. They left without me, and they didn't pay for the room or anything. So I had to pay for the room, but I didn't have any money, so I had to work for the hotel.
My English teacher hates me for no reason. I'm the only person he calls out. I'm the only person he catches an attitude with, and I don't know why. Anyway, so a couple days ago, we had a 6 to 10 paragraph essay due, and the website to turn it in was not working. So I emailed him and I was like, hey, the website to turn in my essay isn't working. I even sent this man a screenshot. He never answered me. So the next day I join his class and I'm like, hey, I cannot submit the assignment. It's not working. He looks at me and he goes, well, then don't submit it. What do you mean? It's due today. So then he goes on a rant about how not everybody submitted their essay. So I unmute myself and I'm like, I cannot submit it. And he gets a real bad attitude and he's like, I emailed you about it. I emailed you how to fix it. So then this man mutes himself and rants about me to the entire class. And the funny thing is he never sent me an email!
I got into a fist fight with my mom. Story time. This is not my story, this is from a follower. So one day me and my mom went out to this restaurant that was a little too classy for our behavior. Once we sat down, I noticed across the way there was this girl that I went to high school with that I also fought back then. So I told my mom about her and she was on the lookout. Now this girl has not changed since high school, so as soon as she notices me, she starts whispering kiki ha ha to her whatever friend she had. So I knew what type of time we was on. So I'm like, Mama, if we get into a fight at this place, we are to never return. So I go up to get me and my mom some drinks, and so as I'm standing there, I hear somebody walk up behind me and go, hey, and then they grab me by my shoulder. Now I reacted like I was in a WWE SmackDown match, and I grabbed their wrist as hard as I could and twisted it like God. I hear all the commotion in the restaurant and people trying to break it up. My hair is in my face, her hair is in my face and in her face, and we're literally fighting. As we get split up, I move my hair from my face, and it's my mom. I don't know what possessed her to grab me by my shoulder. I was so embarrassed. That girl was looking at me like,
this is why you should never lick envelopes unless you want, well, you'll see. A woman in California who worked at the postal office dealt with tons of envelopes. Now, normally she used a wet sponge to wet them, but she ran out of the water, so she decided to lick a couple envelopes to get them closed. In the process of licking it, she ended up cutting her tongue. She didn't think anything of it until about a week later when she noticed a huge lump forming on the side of her tongue. The doctor took a look at it and said, we need to do surgery and get this thing out of here. The doctor started to incise the lesion out, but then he noticed something crazy. Out from the hole came a live cockroach. It turns out that the envelope had cockroach eggs on it, and when she cut her tongue, the eggs went into her tongue and started forming into live cockroaches. I don't know about you, but I'm never licking envelopes again.
This is a story time of why I don't eat at other people's house no more. Me and my best friend, we were like 11 or 12 at the time, and we were having a sleepover at her house. We had hung out outside of school many times before. This would just be the first time I went over to her house. My mom drops me off and just lets me walk inside. When I went up to the door, my best friend answered and she was like, hey, can you grab a shoe? Immediately, I could tell that the house wasn't very clean, but I knew it wasn't her fault. It's not because she asked me to grab a shoe. I could see behind her and could tell that the house was just really messy. It really did look like an episode of Hoarders, but I grabbed a shoe and I helped her look for that fly. So it was me, my bestie, and her grandma looking for this bug. We got a little tired, so we sat down to eat something and her grandma made us a snack. I was a little scared to eat, not gonna lie, but I didn't want to make my best friend feel bad, so I went ahead and ate my food. Well, I was only able to eat some of it because we had left the basement door open and we saw the bug fly down there. So we stopped eating, ran down to the basement, and we saw the bug fly behind this box. We moved this box, and I swear 100 families of spiders and their ancestors started spewing out, like for part 2. This is going to be part 2 of why I don't eat at other people's house no more. Like I said, so many spiders started spewing out from behind this box. I genuinely thought that these spiders were going to eat all of us alive. It was not a fun situation. We did not run fast enough. These spiders started crawling all over us. I think I saw a lighter somewhere and considered setting myself on fire. I want you guys to imagine like my whole entire body covered up with spiders. That's what it felt like, but there was only like 5 or 6 on me. The grandma gets a blanket and starts whipping us with it. She's like trying to dust the spiders off. Anything to get these spiders off. Once we felt like we were good, we ran upstairs. My best friend started crying to me and apologizing and saying how much she hates her life and how she's so embarrassed. But I told her that all is good and this doesn't change the way that I see her at all. Have our little moment and then we sit down to eat again. And you know, I'm going in on my little SpaghettiOs, but all of a sudden it starts getting crunchy. I ignore it and I get down to the bottom of the bowl. When I look down, there is a half-eaten spider in the bottom of the bowl, like for part 3. This is going to be part 3 of why I don't eat at other people's house anymore. So like I said, I was munching and grunching on some SpaghettiOs. It's getting crunchy and I'm like, what's this crunch? Where's all this crunch coming from? I was like, bruh, it's probably some expired SpaghettiOs, but let me finish this bowl so my friend don't feel bad. When I got to the end and there was only some soup left, I saw a half-eaten spider, the same spiders that we had seen downstairs. My body, it started vibrating. I was shaking. I seized out. I think I passed out. This was not a good situation. I did have a phobia of spiders. I told my best friend, listen, babes, I love you. You know I love you. But this cannot go on no longer. I'm gonna have to go home. I felt like such a terrible friend, but I did call my mom. And she came to get me and she took me home. I told her what happened and she was upset with my friend's grandma. From then on, we only had sleepovers at my house. And ever since my family found out about her living situation, we would go over there sometimes to help them clean. We would bring food and games. I'm grown now, but me and this girl ended up falling out because of some drama.